Actually, part of the motivation for this starts with my co-founder, Dr. Abhijit. His father insisted that he studies physics at a young age. So he spent a lot of time actually pursuing core physics, and then went into medicine and became a cardiologist. He got his DM from King's College London, and he had the opportunity to work with Dr. John Hampton. Many of you may be already familiar with Dr. Hampton. He's written several of the textbooks on EKG processing. So Dr. Abhijit had a chance to work with him, and that paved the way for some of the stuff that he's done. Subsequent to that, he went on to get a fellowship from Harvard and Johns Hopkins, and he got a fellowship in the heart failure side. So if you triangulate everything, he realized that there must be signals in the EKG that actually point to the mechanical operation of the heart. My own background came the other way. I did a lot of work in real-time data and then went into inside the heart. So we understood at an EGM level or electrogram level what kind of signals operate within the heart, and as you move a catheter around, both the electrical and the mechanical vibrations, if you will, of the heart. And so we did a lot of signal processing. We applied AI in that space, and we kind of understood the technical side of it. So when you put together a group of experts in cardiology, physics, and AI, what do you get? You get people that can screw and unscrew the light bulb, of course, but you also get people that can really understand the core of how can you extract certain signals from the heart that may be very subtle to read with the eye or even with a lot of processing. So that's a little bit about our background. I must also add a little bit about the CEO, Dr. Amar Ray. To my advantage, he's Dr. Abhijit's father as well. Getting two stellar folks in the same family is pretty hard to do. And Dr. Amar's background, he was the leader of the team that built and exited the previous company, which was the electroanatomical mapping product. He worked in the FDA for about a year, so he understands how things move within the FDA. And we actually got record FDA approval for our cardiac ablation product in about 7 months. So we understand the operation of what it takes to get invasive 510(k) clearance as well. So with that, let me jump in. My own exposure to heart failure started with a very, very close family at the age of 40. A very close relative started complaining of fatigue and had mild pedal edemas. We couldn't really make out. And we all kind of advised him, being, pseudo medical, we started advising him to do all kinds of things. And he did go to a doctor and go through a lot of tests. But it took about a year and 3 months before they identified that the condition was actually. So I was determined that, in the world of AI and Gen AI and, more and more advantages in AI, we should be able to detect this a lot faster. In fact, we should be able to detect it before it happens. And the signals are there. And that's really where we've, done our work and made some progress. As many of you know, it's a silent killer. As Dr. Uli will attest, in the US, 77% of heart failure detection happens in the ER, and that's for a chronic condition that is creeping up on somebody over many, many years. That's a really hard thing to digest. And because of the amount of stress, there is a lot of research has been done directly establishing the relationship between heart failure and stress. And because of the increase in stress, whether it is hypertension is a known cause of heart failure. Even diabetes, high cholesterol. There's about 17 medical conditions that cause heart failure. And today, even cardiologists admit that anxiety for several months starts sending people in this direction. So there is anxiety today is due to many things. It could be, fiscal, relationship, political. There's just many, many reasons, and it's growing 18% year over year. The techniques today, what happens when somebody is detected with heart failure? So typically they're going into the ER and finding out. And what do? They do a resting 2D ultrasound and followed by a pro BNP blood test. So these are recommended by the doctor only when all the external symptoms almost certainly point towards heart failure. What we said is let's go completely the other way. Let's go digital, preventive. Let's find it before it happens. And let's go off something that's not invasive. So we work right off the EKG. And we're able to read off the EKG. We've done 8 years of research, including longitudinal research that verifies that we are able to determine the onset of symptomatic heart failure in the next 3 to 24 months. And we're able to do that in just a few minutes. So our servers run on the cloud. We pick up the signal from the EKG, either directly from the EKG device or from a PDF. And in the third world, there's actually a lot of people that have taken printouts of the EKG that are lying around either with the patient or in the doctor's office. We've built the technology to take that, digitize it, and do the prediction for heart failure and give it back. So we've created something that's fairly easy to do, and we've brought it all the way down to wearable devices. So we've tested it on 1 lead, 2 lead, 6 lead, and 12 lead EKG devices. Obviously, the 12 lead is the most accurate, but we have been able to determine onset of heart failure even with like the handheld 6 lead devices as well. Quick thing on how it works. You take the EKG and we provide an API and a fairly straightforward access. Through the API, our server runs on the cloud. We follow all the data requirements of each geography. So our solution is GDPR compliant for those of you who are in Europe. We also don't require any PII. So we don't need the gender, we don't need the age group, we don't need the BMI. We're able to just off the EKG determine whether the heart is going into both preserved and reduced ejection fraction based heart failure within the next few months. And this is one place where we really stand out against the echo as well. We are able to predict both cases. Of course, we have a very high sensitivity and specificity for the reduced ejection fraction, but we also have a high 80s specificity for the reduced ejection fraction, for the preserved ejection fraction. So we take the EKG, we process it, and then send the output back to the same machine. Right now, it's a straight traffic light display. We tell if the person has no immediate risk of heart failure or is heart failure, is there a risk of heart failure in the next 3 months, which means they should go see their primary care doctor. We're also able to diagnose if heart failure is present, but we're not going into this as a diagnostic test. So what we're doing is telling them that there's a high risk for heart failure and we recommend that you see a cardiologist. So that's kind of where the product is. We've packaged it to be very seamless and extremely straightforward. Quick comparison with the Echo. I can operate our solution. Any semi-trained professional can do that. I've myself done now close to about 1,400 tests. Just a quick history of the company while I'm mentioning that. we completed we've been doing research for about 7.5 years, especially because we had to do longitudinal research to verify that the mechanical operations we're finding actually had bearing in terms of the heart functioning a few months to a years down the road. So we did longitudinal research, and once we got the validation, we went into clinical trials. We did the clinical trials in India in 3 different hospitals. We did about 135 patients for the clinical trials, and then we did post-clinical validations both in India and in the US. That was close to about 750 patients. And then subsequently, we did retrospective analysis on the Framingham heart cohort, which which was about 21,800 patients, and we had a sensitivity and specificity number that is very close to 99% with the Framingham heart cohort. We published our results in the European Society of Cardiology, and they have accepted a term called impending heart failure. So we're able to detect a condition that is about 90 days before symptomatic heart failure. The ESC has accepted that that will be called impending heart failure. And there is actually work underway to define an ICD code for that. In the US, we've submitted our Framingham study to the New England Journal of Medicine. It's been accepted, but from what we hear, it has been backlogged significantly. So our test, really simple. I can do it. For the current gold standard, it requires a specialized radiologist to do it, to do the resting 2D echo. Having said that, we are not trying to replace the echo. So I just want to get that clear. Even though we're comparing and contrasting, we're not trying to replace that. What we're trying to do is catch the patients that wouldn't have come to get the echo done in the first place. So we've talked to several folks. We've talked to folks at the CDC. We've talked to folks at the health ministry in various other countries. And most of them have admitted that if there's a certain number of heart failure patients already detected, there's almost the same number in each geography that's undetected. That kind of puts the worldwide number from 64 to probably twice that. So somewhere between 120 and 150 million that are undetected because these folks haven't shown up in the ER, they haven't got the echo done. And this is where we come in. It just takes 4 minutes for us to do the test. We're pricing the product in the US at $15. We have an accuracy of 98 to 99%. We actually have no observer bias, and we don't need sophisticated trained personnel. And we've run several health fairs in the last year, and what we've found is that we've sent close to 200 people to cardiologists to get for further validation, and they've done the echo and the pro-BNP, and we are validating at close to the high 90s. Dr. Uli, a quick check. Am I going fast enough? Do I need to slow down, or do you want me to get through it faster?
This is perfect. Continue.
Okay.
You have another 15 minutes.
Okay. So, quick point on the market potential. So, we believe we can displace about $150 million in the US alone that's spent in heart failure. And for those of you that know, you're aware that 43% of heart failure patients get hospitalized 4 or more times a year. And a significant portion of them visit the hospital twice within 30 days. And you know what the financial implication that has on the hospital. So 2 visits in 30 days, they lose the credit for, they lose the financial credit. And heart failure is one of the biggest causes for that behavior to happen. Worldwide, we believe we are potentially displacing a $358 billion market. We are going to move/create a large portion of it into the digital preventative side. We are over the last year, where we are is we've built our solution. We have piloted it with a few doctors and hospitals. We are not yet in the market from a revenue standpoint. We've just about we do have some sales relationships with hospitals outside of the US. We have filed for FDA approval. We are in the process of filing for FDA approval in the US. We're in the process of filing for CE mark, for the CE certification in Europe. And we realized that there are several countries that we can start with before we come into the US. In fact, for our previous product, we actually did our human trials in Europe, and that was very favorably looked upon by the FDA for our 510(k) clearance. We've been talking to, we've had conversations and fairly deep conversations with folks in the US healthcare system, as well as device manufacturers, both in the US and worldwide, to potentially bundle with them. Some of the market potential includes the fact that today an EKG device typically sells from $5,000 to $15,000, whereas an echo machine sells for $140,000. And one of the uses of the echo machine is heart failure detection. So it's an EKG machine bundled with the HAIF product can potentially sell for a lot higher, opening up a new market for device manufacturers. The handheld manufacture devices are another great option for us. We've had conversations with multiple of them, and we are ready to get into relationships. We formed our company close to Jan 1st, 2024. And all of 2024, we actually spent on getting certifications. We got HIPAA, CCPA, CCNA, ISO 27001, 27701 for data privacy and security, both for our primary office as well as some of our satellite offices that are supporting us in other countries. 2025, we expect to get the FDA clearance around between Q2 and Q3. And CE as well. And then we expand into large expansion into the US market in later half of 2025 and 2026. We do plan to expand very fast into a few of the other countries in 2025. And 2027 would be area of rapid growth. And we do believe we would like to do a public offering in 2029. We are very, very profitable in terms of our operations and our projections for operations. And the reason for it is most of our research and clinical trials are already behind us. We have built our technology last year. We've got the certifications. We've tested on more than 5,000 patients/consumers, and we've got the operational side. The entire team is already HIPAA compliant. So we're ready to go to market. Our expenses will primarily be on sales and sales support. And we expect to be profitable in the first year itself. A few other things about what we're working on. HFP, which is our heart failure predictor, has already reached the market and touched more than 5,000 lives. We are working on additional prognostics. All of them have a very strong impact for people in the cardiac space. There are about 250 million people worldwide that already have heart failure or post-stroke, and other serious cardiac conditions. We have a very, very accurate version of serum K that can catch potential complications before they develop. And we've already published our solution here, and we're moving ahead with productizing it. We've also been able to predict coronary artery disease. Again, we're in the early days. We haven't yet published this, but we've already had limited use within our pre-alpha network. We're able to predict both the location and the degree of blockage. So we expect a prognostic. We're working on a prognostic for CAD. And we're also working on a low blood sugar prediction that has impact for both cardiac and non-cardiac patients. So we are working on multiple prognostics. These are not the only ones, but we do believe that since we have decoded both the electrical and the mechanical side of cardiac operation, what that's telling us, we do expect that many, many more things will follow. We have tried to mitigate our risks, risk of data issues with data with going into HIPAA and ISO very early on. The entire company operates on these guidelines. We've also done a lot of work with cybersecurity. We've completed a lot of the vulnerability penetration tests. And we've also created a wall before accepting any PII. And from the FDA standpoint, we are in the process of the ISO 13485, and we have a target for both CE and 510K clearance, getting the complete application in by July of this year. We've been awarded a full patent that allows us to essentially compute the ejection fraction from the EKG. This is seminal. And we, 2 years in a row, at InnovatorMD itself, we were adjudged the best or the second best company. So we're very grateful for the opportunity. We're always happy to be here. And we've taken the feedback very seriously from what the doctors have given us in the past. We've been covered in the USA Today and the London Daily and hot off the press. We've also been covered by Forbes in Europe. We have our seed round underway, and I'm very, very happy to say that we've signed the term sheet with a lead investor, a very, very well-known Valley-based investor who has a very, very strong understanding of B2C. And we figured that with a B2C partner was very important for us because we have to get the message out to the consumer worldwide. In the initial days, we are going to be selling B2B, but there is a long-term opportunity for us B2C, but we have to reach the consumer. We have to get the message out to them. So we're very happy to say that we've signed a term sheet with a lead investor. The terms are we believe are very, very favorable to investors, and we are moving in the next 30 to 90 days to close the round. I've already talked about the Dr. Amar Ray and Dr. Abhijit Ray. Just one more thing about Dr. Amar is he was part of the team that actually worked on the Boston Big Dig, where the leader got the Nobel Prize. So the quality of what's in our company and the product is at a standard that I'm definitely learning a lot every day. We also have two stellar folks in the marketing and business development side. Many of you folks might know Zach Selch. Zach actually took several of GE's product lines to the worldwide market, and Kevin's an expert on digital messaging, especially on the AI and healthcare side. And Kevin and I have operated a very successful podcast on the AI side for a couple of years, where we've had a chance to talk to many industry leaders, and Kevin actually is the anchor for this program. We've launched a huge effort. We're calling it, One Nation, One EKG, or One World, One EKG. And the idea is to do 1 million EKGs by the end of this year that allows us, our detection rate right now, believe it or not, across the world is about 8%. So we believe that will touch about 80,000. It'll bring a smile to a million people, but it will directly impact about 80,000 lives that didn't know that they were, in line for symptomatic failure. And we've taken this, we've signed up for this challenge for this year. So we're raising about a $5 million seed round to scale and expand, and we already have about close to about 2 million spoken for, including our lead investor, and we're essentially looking to use this to build our sales support. We've found partners for several states in India, each of which ends up being a very large market by itself. For about 5 countries in the West African space, and we've found partners for a couple of countries in the GCC, which is the Middle East, and we expect to penetrate those markets in the next 2 to 3 quarters. We are gearing up for a post-FDA launch in the US in end of Q3 and Q4 of this year, and the same with Europe. But we'd have had tremendous experience by then with the other geographies. So the question I always get asked is, being a small company, how can you do sales in so many countries? And we're actually partnering. We're actually teaming up with partners. So our investment is in the back end sales support, and so we'd like to, learn about these markets and learn what works and what doesn't work. And we're providing, since we are actually software as a medical device, we're providing the SaaS solution for them and providing all the sales support and paraphernalia and the back end side. And most of our solution is automated. A very, very small percentage requires manual override, and the heart failure predictor is operating, fairly seamlessly. We also want to expand our IP, like I told you, what's coming in the pipeline right now. We need to take many of those to publication, to patent, to product and launch. Thank you very much. Join us on our mission, One World, One EKG. We, really love the forum. We're very grateful to all of you for the work that you do and for also giving us a chance to share our learnings and our journey. So let me pause here and open it up for comments and questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Bharat. I appreciate, the progress you guys are making. So it's a great, I'm very happy to see what you've done in the last quarter.
Thank you.
So one of the questions that I always ask startups is, if you're, especially in startups that are making prediction tools, if you're in the prediction market, who are your customers going to be? Is it going to be the providers, the payers, or the insurance companies, the hospitals, or doctors? Who's going to be your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dr. Uli. So we have three major streams of customers that we're looking at. The first one are I would call all of them intermediaries. There are close to about 20 companies in the US that do screening for patients. So each of them screens between 1 to 3 to 5 million patients annually. We've had conversations with multiple of them, and fairly deep conversations. Some of them are even looking at taking up a strategic position in the round. And what they do is they are charging consumers. They're already doing 4 tests for consumers. This includes an abdominal ultrasound, blood work, CBCs, etc. And they've been wanting to add a heart failure test. So they're pricing their tests right now, 4 tests at $160 per patient. This is outside of insurance. And they have got the approval to go to about $220, and they want to add HAIF as one of the tests. So at a single partnership puts us in the almost the double-digit $1 million revenue standpoint. So that's one example of a customer with whom we're very close to a letter of intent signing. We've also talked to insurance companies that do potential life insurance screening, and some of them have expressed an interest. The US obviously is a slightly different market, but we are getting a lot of interest from worldwide insurance companies that want to make this part of life insurance screening. So again, we're just sitting in one place. The ECG or the EKG comes to us, we process it and give a result, which really allows us to scale our market. As we get a sales team, we would go out more and more to individual clinics and primary care doctors and make this available to them. So that if anyone in the 17 pre heart failure risk conditions come to us, then they can just recommend this test. But we right now, being a small company, don't want to go clinic to clinic and sell this product. So we're working through the larger intermediaries. And we also definitely believe that the larger groups like Kaiser and Sutter, who are doing both providing the healthcare and providing the insurance, would benefit tremendously from preventative health. We've had a couple of conversations with companies in that space. And so we're looking at these as the initial launch. Having said that, we are partnering with a few clinics, not to sell into them, but to have them as anchors for the program. So if there's a reference, or if we want to get feedback on the product or continue to evolve the product, they're great partners to have. And we have about 7 hospitals that are using us right now. They're all outside of the US, while we wait for the FDA approval, but we've had some very good response from them.
Right. Margaret has a question. Margaret, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask.
Great. Hey, Bharat, very good presentation, by the way, and just really, impressive where you brought the company to today. I know it's not easy to go through FDA. I do want to get clarification on your pricing. You mentioned about $15. Is that per use or per subscription?
It's per use. So it's essentially what we do is we take the EKG and run our algorithm on it and give a prediction on the product. We give a prediction on impending heart failure.
Oh, okay. And what is your current pre-valuation?
The round valuation?
Yeah, the current pre-money valuation.
Yeah, so we are so we're at about a 13 million pre-money right now for this round.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and Margaret put a message that she's interested in seed and or Series A. So please look at the chat box and connect with her.
Okay, great. Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then Sunil Ravipati says, based on Silicon Valley, he works on compliance for MedTech. Any other questions for Bharat?
I actually have a quick one because in your competitive slide, Bharat, I'm not seeing other competitors similar to, like innovators similar to yours. So maybe can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, there are a few companies that are doing detection using AI. So they're able to, there are companies that are able to detect when the LVEF is between 35 and 40. And and that's definitely useful, just given that there's so many asymptomatic people. But also, often by that time, you have other techniques that doctors are using. If they want to detect, then there's a chance they might recommend the echo and the pro BNP right off the bat. So that's one of the things that there's companies that are doing that. There are companies that are using other kinds of signals, like in the ICU, there's companies that are picking up on the sound vibrations from the heart and trying to predict. I'm not predict. They're trying to detect if there's a serious heart condition. There's companies that use like a stethoscope that they place on the heart to pick up the vibrations. And but none of them is in the accuracy that we have. Our um, true positive rate accuracy is 84%. It actually outperforms both the pro-BNP and the ultrasound echo. And very few of them have got into prognostics. The reason for prognostic being difficult is it takes years to do the longitudinal analysis. So if you have a particular prediction, then you got to track 30 patients or 50 patients for 6 months to see if your prediction was right. And if it wasn't, you got to scrap it, start the whole thing again. So there is the longitudinal work we have done gives us a huge moat, as the Silicon Valley calls it, or a lead before others can catch up. You have to ensure that what you're finding is definitely predictive. So that's the reason why there's few in that space. So we are market makers. There is a challenge associated with market making, not one that's new to me. I'm now in my seventh startup, and all of them have been market makers. And so it's not easy to be a market maker, but at the same time, if as you hit your milestones on the journey, the potential growth in the value of the company is very high.
Yeah, I do see, Bharat, that this is really good, especially for people going in, because your application, it's a triage, right? Like right after they do the EKG, they can immediately see that.
Exactly.
Usually people wait,
Exactly.
correct me if I'm wrong, but they will wait like, oh my goodness, for hours just to get the results. So I do see that
Absolutely.
advantage there. I have other questions, but I will, let others ask for now.
Yeah, I just want to address another thing that you mentioned. There's EKGs sitting in the EHRs. We estimate there's about 40 billion EKGs sitting in EHRs across the world right now, that have been taken like a couple years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. For us, at some point, we can be a very powerful preventive tool by just running on those EKGs and providing feedback to doctors of a condition they didn't even know was there. It was in the past, people would save the blood samples or save tissue samples so they could run new tests when they were available. Today, we have the ability to go back and run on the EKG. So we're just waiting to open up that market, actually.
Yeah, this is
Sorry.
really good, Bharat. No, this is really good. I think you should add that to your slide. I don't, if you haven't done so.
Thank
I
you.
think it's really good. Great, thank you.
Hey Bharat, this is Ramesh. Wonderful presentation as usual. Sorry, I'm a bit late to the call, but I've identified two end user use cases. One is with the Physicians Association of North America in Maryland. One of the lead individuals in that association is very interested. And the use case there is how do you do this from a preventative basis, even before leaving the home, right? If you have the device at home, that is the level one. The level two is to have it at somebody like a CVS or Walgreens. Okay. So level one, level two, and hopefully, everything is good for that person. The second one is, as of today morning, is with Al Futtaim Hospital in Middle East. Okay. They're in Dubai. They're a customer of ours, and the use case there is they're overflowing and inundated with patients, and it has become an insurance nightmare for them. So if they can use something like this to for the business side for them to relieve of a lot of pressure, right? So that customers can take care of themselves. That is one thing. And the second thing is there's a lot of false positives that come to them through their chatbot. So AI for all the good and bad, whatever we have designed is not really helping you, because even one false positive is bad for them. So they are looking to introduce something like a HAIF to get into this. And obviously we can follow up later in detail with Paul. Okay.
That's thank you, Ramesh. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for taking the time to attend. Really appreciate it. Very exciting. I think for the Maryland side, definitely this will fit in to preventative health. In fact, we are open to even starting it on a doctor advisory basis where it's just there on the side. It's not used for anything where it's just available. So we would definitely love to offer that as an option. And for the hospital in Dubai, I'm not going to say that we solve every problem. It's a great opportunity, but it can definitely be run for people with a cardiac issue just to rule out that they're going into some form of heart failure. So having said this, I just wanted to share a small anecdote of about few months ago. My We were able to detect my father, and being in the cardiology space, I have access. I'm very grateful for that, to cardiologists in multiple countries, and because he's over 80, a lot of the tests that would have routinely been done aren't done for that age group. And so it kind of evaded a lot of those conditions. And we were able to detect a block in one of the major arteries. It was almost a 5-inch block, and it evaded a lot of the testing that is currently in place, and able to get him treatment in time. And we just immediately after that, in the subsequent week, we were able to detect another block for somebody that sent us their EKG, very, very close. Some of you may know him as well. But we were able to detect a block there as well. And so we are finding, that we can help the hospital in Dubai, and at least help them prioritize and say, hey, you are inundated, but this case is probably more important to look at just because of where it's tending.
Yeah, thank you, Bharat. And obviously, I don't want to take up any more time. I can provide details to you and Paul and others in detail. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ravi.
Right.
Ma-
Hector says he connects medtech venture investors with high potential seed stage startups. So maybe Hector, you should connect with Bharat.
Yes, actually, Bharat, I just wanted to ask if you can send me a copy of your pitch deck. I actually DM'd you directly via the chat my email, so you can just reply back with to my email, and I also sent you my the URL to my LinkedIn profile as well. I do have one question. How far along are you on your race right now? This will be your seed race, your seed stage. Is that right?
Yeah, so we raised an angel round last year, Hector. We raised about our target was about 1 million last February. We ended up being oversubscribed, so we raised about 1.4. And then we are raising the seed round of about 5, and we have already commitments for about 2. And this is a price round. So, the moment the investors come in is when we can take the money. And we've just signed a term sheet with our lead investor.
And what are you doing? Are you looking for a safe or are you looking for a convertible note?
No, it's going to be a price round. So it will
Price
be a
round.
price round. Yeah.
Got it.
So we did a safe for the angel round, but here, since we have a lead investor, we're looking at about I would say an 18 million post-money valuation, and that's the term sheet. And we are so everybody will be issued shares. So it will be a full price round.
Perfect. My other question is more of a technical question. Are you
Yeah.
actually looking at heart rate variability as a leading indicator of a cardiovascular disease?
That's a beautiful question. We actually, I believe in that, and I've seen enough evidence because we've worked both inside the heart and outside. Having said that, we have created about 20 new markers, Hector, that identify the mechanical functioning of the heart. And there are some markers that we've split up the heart rate variability into multiple markers and joined that with other parts of the EKG curve to create new markers for us.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Great. Margaret, you have another question or?
Yes, I have
Say-
a quick question actually. Now, it's my understanding you just mentioned you have a lead investor of 2 million committed.
That's correct.
Yeah, and you're looking for 5 million total.
That's right.
Now, is the lead investor in the US?
Yes, they're based in Silicon Valley. They've very successful. I am not right now at liberty to mention their name yet, but they're very well known. Some of the early Silicon Valley giants are LPs in that investor, and they have several exits. They have multiple unicorns. So we're very happy to be associated with them.
Sounds good. Great. Thanks, Bharat.
Thank you.
Great. Great. All right. Are there any other questions before? Thank you for filling out the form for connections so that we can give it to Bharat for follow-up. And if there aren't any other questions, last words, Bharat. Oh, sorry. Will has a question. Will, go ahead.
I don't want to keep everyone here late, so I just want
No.
I just want to say, Bharat, good presentation, great stuff, and excellent work. What you guys are doing. The question I had was, have you explored any integrations into third-party consumer-like applications? Have you looked into that, or are you doing that today, or is that on the roadmap?
So definitely both health and wellness third-party apps are on the roadmap. We've actually had conversations with close to about 20 companies in that space. And finding the right first partner, we would immediately jump in because it lends itself very well to the way we operate. We want to take advantage of the fact that we're a software as a medical device. We're very strong in SaaS. We built both Yahoo and Amazon. I actually built part of Amazon's, I had the opportunity to work on their payment engine for AWS. So we're very strong on that side. We're equally strong on the healthcare side. So our science behind the product is really good. So this would really lend itself. I think it's absolutely a great idea and a great thought and something we've been talking to folks in. And if you have connects there, we would be really happy to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. I filled in the form, and I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you afterwards. So thank you for.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Bharat, let's say if a physician wants to use your product on one of his patients or her patients, how would they do it?
Yeah,
Right now.
So right now, we're actually setting up a portal, Dr. Uli. They can just send us the EKG on that portal, either the PDF, they can even take a photograph and send it. Of course, I know that's not the best way to do it, but we also can connect to the digital output of their EKG itself. So there's
But
3 different ways in which we can connect, and we blank out the PII, so we don't keep the PII. In fact, we don't even store the data. So we just take it and then we give back the results.
so let's say, how soon will we get the results? When you
In
have it
less than
localized.
in less than 5 minutes.
So
So
is that
it's
like an automated report that
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
out?
it is automated. There is a certain small percentage of them. In some countries, they've insisted that we take 24 hours. So we have to kind of hold the result and hold the identifier that they send us and send it back to them in 24 hours. So we were doing that, but essentially it takes us 5 minutes to that's the upper bound to run the test and get it back to people.
Great. All right. Any last words?
Yeah, I just want to thank Ruchi and your team, Dr. Ruli. Really, hats off. And each time the things we've learned from the questions that folks asked and your own input, and just how seamless it is, despite us sometimes not getting our act together. Very, very grateful.
Oh, I have a great team. It's not me, it's them.
Dr. Uli, Dr. Uli.
Yes?
Bharat, as always, great job, great presentation. And Dr. Uli, you've done a great job at putting everything together. So like Bharat knows, there are different hospitals and different people around the globe, looking at this very seriously as we speak. So we are in discussion with a few of them ourselves directly for here. And hopefully you'll get some good results. This is just a starting point of a major, major discovery. Some of the cardiologists people are talking to in the US and London and Middle East and India, they seem to be seeing very positive interest in this. Some of the people who are in 60s and 70s, they cannot imagine how something as simple as this can detect something so powerful and so valuable. So everything
Yeah.
looks, God willing, very good. Just want to say thank you so much for all your time and effort and being part of the team here with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for
Always.
joining us today. And Bharat, go ahead. Any last minute things, or shall we
John,
close?
I just
You're
want to
good?
say, join us. Let's get to 1 million EKGs this year. So
All right. Thank you.